I was in prison. I'd been in Pleasant Valley State Prison, Fresno, California, many times before. This particular time, I was there for an interfaith celebration sponsored by the Muslim American Society. We're in D-Yard, visiting room. Approximately 200 African-American men that were there, and one of them came up to me and was thanking me for all of the work that my prison outreach team had been doing through the years. He'd actually been watching me for about 5 years, but had never spoken. He was getting out in 2 weeks, and he wanted to make a connection. So as I'm congratulating him on his release, he just, as a matter of fact, says, yeah, they just found out that I was innocent. And I froze. You're innocent? Yes, ma'am. I hesitated to ask the next question. He appeared to be about as old as I was, which would have meant that he would have been in prison for a very long time. African-American men generally don't go to prison middle-aged. I took a deep breath and I said, how long have you been locked up? 26 years? 26 years? You have been locked up for 26 years and you're innocent? Yes, ma'am. And then he goes on, just as a matter of fact, he's telling me this story about how this other inmate had just been up for parole not too long ago. And during his hearing, the other guy mentioned that somebody else went down with them that had nothing to do with it. So the people from the other panel looked up, and sure enough, everything that was needed to exonerate the guy standing before me had been in the file all along. I was livid. I was so upset, and I just couldn't figure out how is this injustice going to be rectified. Fuming. About 30 days later, I get this call. It's him. He's been out about 2 weeks. And he's just going on and on about all these wonderful things that are happening in his life. He's at home, about 3-minute walk from where my home is in Los Angeles, my childhood home. And he's just talking and talking and talking, and he's not a word in the conversation about incarceration. Okay. About 3 or 4 weeks later, he calls me again. And he is so absolutely chipper, and he's just talking about all these things. I can't stand it. His peace is disturbing me. So I finally just said, let me just ask you something. Aren't you I don't know, maybe a little bit mad? Mad! Reverend, I'm as mad as I'm ever gonna be in life. Mad! I'm free! Why would I waste another minute of my life being mad? I'm free! I'm free! And I realized in that moment that I was witnessing the very face of forgiveness. The very face of forgiveness. I have told that story many times. I never heard from him again. Last May, the phone rings. I don't even know his name. And I hear this voice, remember me? I said, are you the guy that did 26 and was innocent? Yes, ma'am. And he goes on and he tells me about his wife and his children and all these wonderful things that he's doing. It was unbelievable. So about 30 days after that, last June, I'm telling the story to another ex-lifer who's done 28, Paul, a guy I've worked with for many years in and out of prison. And as I'm telling Paul this story, and right till I get to the point of asking about being mad, Paul laughs at me. And I said, that's just what he did. And then Paul reminded me of what he had said to the congregation the day before. He said, freedom and anger cannot occupy the same space. Freedom isn't a matter of geography, freedom's in the mind. Freedom and anger cannot occupy the same space. We mistakenly think that forgiveness is something to do with the other person. And then we think that we have to try to figure out if They deserve our forgiveness. But that's not what it's about. That we do this litmus test. We have all these things that we go on in our mind. How bad was it? How many times has it happened? Who's involved? Were there other alternatives? And then maybe we put these things on the scale, and maybe if it tilts toward forgiveness, we'll think about forgiving. But we're asking the wrong questions. We're asking, do they deserve our forgiveness? When the real question is, will we allow ourselves to be free? That's the real question. Just how willing are we to be free? Forgiveness does not change what's happened. What forgiveness does is that it shifts our relationship to what has happened. The bell cannot be unrung. We can't undo what's already done. What we can do is decide how it's going to impact us. Why? Because our experience is not what happens. Our experience is how we name what happens. Let me give you an example. How many of you in the room grew up with siblings? Have you ever wondered if you were actually raised in the same house? Do you even have the same parents? Because different interpretations of the same circumstances creates completely different experiences. New science tells us that every time we think a thought, a chemical reaction happens in our brain. And the thoughts that fire together wire together, creating very intricate neurosynaptic connectivity. And if the thought is repeated, that connectivity expands into greater and greater networks. If we want to have a new experience, then we have to infuse those receptors in our brains that have already fused. We must infuse them with new information. We have to create a new story. We have to create a new narrative for our lives. Ultimately, whenever you have a recovery process, that's all that we're really doing. In the recovery process is that we are reaffirming something within us that is beyond the injury. Whatever it is that we don't forgive looms over us, and we allow it to define us. We allow it to tell us our possibilities. Forgiveness is a choice. It is a conscious decision. It is a conscious decision to reclaim our power so that we have a sense of agency that enables us to have self-determination. You can't have self-determination if you don't know that you have some kind of control over your life. Forgiveness is just as important on a societal level as it is on a personal level. In fact, social justice work is built on forgiveness. All of the Nobel Peace Prize laureates, from Nelson Mandela and de Klerk, Bishop Desmond Tutu, Martin Luther King Jr., the Dalai Lama, Eli Wiesel, Mother Teresa, all of them are understanding this very thing about forgiveness. Malala Yousafzai, the newest and the youngest of the Nobel Peace laureates, laughed also when Oprah asked her if she was angry at the Taliban for having shot her in the face. She says, I don't have any time to be angry. I can't waste my energy on being angry. Angry costs us too much. It cost us our freedom. It cost us joy. It cost us peace. We have to be willing to let it go. Will we not fan the flames of anger and instead stand into our possibilities? Are we willing to do that in order so that we can be free, so that we can break the cycles of abuse? Because what happens when we do not forgive, we remain frozen in time. To not forgive is a choice that says that I am never going to be informed by anything else ever in life. Let us not short ourselves. Let us unleash all of our power and our productivity so that we can step into a brand new day with a brand new story about our possibilities. So I have enlisted someone to help us figure this out. Because you ask, well, what exactly is forgiveness anyway? We don't know really what it is, but we know a little bit about how it works. We don't know what anything really is. What is life? What is love? What is joy? What is it? We know it when we see it. And it's apparent to us when it appears to be missing. So, I have asked my alter ego, Wilhelmina, to help us figure this out. Now, Wilhelmina has 3 very basic questions. Her questions are, why I got to forgive, why I got to forgive, and why I got to forgive. Inquiring minds want to know. Why I got to forgive. Can't I just live with the truth of my own sleuth? Why I got to forgive. Can't I just draw lines in the sand and stand just wherever they land? Why I got to forgive. Can't I just give back as good as I've gotten and, well, let's just say, call it even? Why I got to practice forgiveness? Ain't nobody's business what I harbor in my heart. Why even start to open doors that can't be reclosed? How am I supposed to deal with all the commotion, the explosion my emotions gonna go through, huh? And what's it to you? Why all you preachers always got to go talking about forgiveness? Like it's really something that can be done. I tried it once or twice. Actually, kind of nice. But then the memories just kept dancing on through, prancing around like they owned my mind, trancing my compassion to sleep. This stuff is deep, y'all. I mean, deep down in the cells that rebel at the very thought of releasing what they are such experts at holding on to. My ego don't know what to do with all this forgiveness stuff. Where does it leave me? Inside, all I want to do is fight. Hide my inability to rewrite the past that lasts, frankly, longer than my willingness to forgive. Chilling paralysis, ceaseless analysis. Just how many times, overt or sublime, can the same crime be tried in somebody's mind? All this forgiveness, it just confuses folks about what's the right thing to do. You don't seem to understand how important it is to be right. I would rather be right about having been wronged than to sing a new song for my story whose only glory is in being sung. May not be that much fun. But when I'm the victim, there's nothing to be done but to tell everybody else what they need to do, go through, show you, undo, redo. Helplessness is so seductive. And I really, really like being seduced. My story and I are so close and so intimate, you can hardly tell us apart. My story needs me. If I don't tell it, who will? Without our stories, what's the proof that we even existed? Yeah, it may be drama, but it beats the trauma of not ever being seen. So I got to forgive. I'm doing quite fine. In fact, I have had the same experience so many times. I'm actually quite good at it. So why are you gonna go ruin a good thing? What's forgiveness gonna do anyway? What's done is done. Besides, if you go around telling people how good they can be, they'll never know how bad they've been. They will never know how they have ruined everything if life just moves on. I'm gonna stay strong in my resolve to resent because they have not accepted enough responsibility for my unhappiness yet. Let the record stand for itself. Leave the evidence alone. Don't go change it, rearrange anything with all this forgiveness mess. That's just letting people off the hook. And I got it all right here in my book, who's innocent and who's a crook. Got to keep a constant look. We got to stay strong in what's wrong. We can't move on till the next one's coming along. Memorize our memories. Long live our view. We won't learn anything new, and I am through with you. Even if I do forgive, I ain't never gonna forget. I am not going to neglect my responsibility to keep replaying it in my mind. Constant rewind is the only protection against that kind. So, you never want to experience it again, then just keep replaying in your mind what already has been. So, why I got to forgive? I ain't got no heaven or hell to put anybody in. Will somebody even just begin to tell me why I got to forgive? What difference does it make what I think? Wilhelmina. Shh, Wilhelmina. Forgiveness is the link that reconnects the fragmented pieces of our lives. It's the thread that weaves us back into wholeness. Without forgiveness, life just simply unravels. The tear that starts one place just spreads every place. Forgiveness emancipates us from the prisons of our own perceptions. So, what are you going to choose? The facts, your fiction, or freedom? What are you going to choose? Oh, it's like that. Okay. You want me to keep it real? Okay. Constipation, liberation. The choice is always yours. So, why you got to forgive? To live, baby. That's all. Just to live.